Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Scaling Smarter. My name is Ali J. Taylor from Wisdom and Wayfinder. I am joined with my co-host today, Frank Myrana from JustWorks. How's it going, Frank?
It's going great, Ali. How are you today? How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good today. I am very excited for today's conversation. But how are things going on your end?
Busy, busy.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end of summer, and I can't believe there's like 2 or 3 weeks left till the kids go back. But it's
Oof.
just just kind of grinding through, and then but I tell you one thing, I'm really excited for our conversation today because we have Jamie Ruiz on, and I know your contacts with Jamie, so
Hmm.
I'd like to do the introductions.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jamie, thank you so much for being here today. Jamie Ruiz is from Matthew James Heart and Home, which is self care for a cause, which was created in memory of her brother Matthew James after losing him to addiction. And so that is why today's conversation is titled "From Grief to Growth: Building a Business with Purpose." But first, I just want to say thank you, Jamie, for being on and welcome.
Thank you so much, Ollie and Frank, for having me today. I'm so excited for our conversation and to share my business with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are things going on your end before we jump into things? I mean, before the pre-call, you said life was lifing,
Life is lifing. So
which I think we can all resonate with that.
yeah, it's back to school. My the other side of my business is I am an academic in the legal field, so I work in a law school. So getting ready for the students to come back, um, taking care of house and home. So there's a lot going on my end, but
Yeah,
nothing to complain because I'm very, very fortunate and
yeah,
um, I'm here with you guys today. So what's better way to spend my Wednesday afternoon, right?
yeah.
Just a little bit.
Awesome. We appreciate it. Well, in the context of life is lifing, I know that just from our conversations, just for, I guess, transparency or disclosure, you are not only a colleague of mine from Latip Networking, you're also client of mine through Wisdom and Wayfinder. And so we've had the opportunity to have a lot of different conversations about your business, why you started, what it is that you're creating. Given the context of life is lifing uh, and the self care for a cause that you created, can you talk a little bit about what your brand is, why you created it, and all of that?
Sure, absolutely. So the name of my business is Matthew James Heart and Home. We are a self care business. So we sell everything that you can make yourself feel good at home, from sugar scrubs, soaps, candles, at home spa products like vegan dry brushes, sea sponges,
Nice.
and exfoliators. So we have a wide array of products. This started back in 2019 with one product
Wow.
that I actually started making while I was a law student. I started making sugar scrubs with my girlfriends in law school. As a broke law student, we weren't going to the spa, we weren't getting facials, we weren't getting, any treatments. So this was just a cool way to kind of swap with friends, take a break from the books. Was a very different way to use my brain and use my hands, and I really enjoyed it. And I experimented with handcrafting skincare for a number of years, until 2019, a friend of mine who I gifted a sugar scrub had said to me, Jamie, I really think you have something here. You should sell your sugar scrubs.
Mhm.
And like any entrepreneur, you always have that self doubt. Who's going to buy this? Who's going to care?
Yeah.
And, in really thinking about that, um, in this period of time, my brother, when I was a law student, he was going through active addiction, and I didn't realize it at the time, but handcrafting skincare and using it and taking that time out for myself was my form of therapy and
Mm.
self-care,
Mhm.
um, throughout his struggles. So, you know organically, those two ideas, after he passed, I always wanted to do something to commemorate his memory. Those two ideas kind of blended together, and it just made sense to me to make something for your heart that you can use at home, in memory of my brother. So that's where Matthew Jane's Heart and Home comes from. So started selling sugar scrubs around Mother's Day 2019, and I sold out my entire inventory at the time. And at this point, I had one product. I was making them in my kitchen.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think I may have something here. And I started going out and pitching boutiques, and local businesses in my area. I'm from Long Island, so I was pitching local boutiques that were close to me in Nassau and Suffolk counties. And I was so overwhelmed by the response and the openness to my story, that really motivated me to keep going and expanding my brand. And now we have a full-fledged spa line. And I would never think, 7 years later, that we would have grown from a one product that was made in my kitchen to offering my products nationwide, via my site and in stores. So it's been a really wild journey.
Jamie, you mentioned something. When we did our prep call, you talked about kind of what surprises or what happened, and you mentioned the openness. Could you expand on that a little bit for folks?
Yeah. So when preparing for this call, and what we spoke about, one of my biggest fears was putting the ask out there and going in and talking to folks, because a huge part, 100% of my business is my story and my brother's story. And it's so personal. So you just don't know how folks are going to react to that. And it could be a roadblock along the way. Whether you have a service-based business or a product-based business, if you're not doing sales, you're not functioning as a business. So, going out there, I'm really putting myself out there and being vulnerable, not only about what I've created, but about my story. So just a couple weeks ago, I was pitching a few local businesses and carrying my products. And I was so nervous. And I'm like, Jamie, you've been doing this for 8 years. Like, the story hasn't changed. This is the same story you've been telling. Yeah. And, it's truthful and it's vulnerable, not to mention very relatable.
Yeah.
And I was so shocked at the immediate yeses that, like, I've really built a momentum over the last couple of weeks in doing sales and prepping for the holiday. But I'm continuously blown away by that. And I think, every business owner can relate to that. When someone says yes, you're like, wow, they chose me.
Yeah.
And it's because we all have something special and unique to bring to the table. And, there's space for everybody. There's a ton of people out there that sell candles and bath and body products. But I think what makes me unique is my story, what we give back philanthropically. I didn't mention earlier that a portion of our proceeds go to my brother's memorial foundation, the Matthew J. Ruiz Memorial Foundation, where we make grants to organizations who help people in recovery, as part of our mission, and in memory of Matt. So, it always surprises me, but then again, after I think about it, it makes me really proud that I get to do this work.
Well, the thing is, addiction is it hits everybody, right? It's hard to find someone that hasn't been touched by addiction, either within their immediate family or amongst friends or something along those lines. Um, it makes sense because it's because what you're selling is more than just soaps, more than scrubs,
Mhm.
right? So which is great. When you went and you kind of talked about like you started with, I believe it was one soap, right? One scrub you
One
used.
sugar scrub,
One,
yeah.
Sure, yeah.
how did you? So when you started adding products, I'm sure you played around with a lot of them and stuff. But how did you like kind of say, all right, you know what? This is I'm going to add this one. I'm going to add this one.
Mhm.
How does that process look like?
I would love to say there was a method to the madness, but there, I think with every creator, things start to happen organically. So when I started with sugar scrubs, um, I knew I couldn't just offer 1 cent. So I started
Mhm.
kind of researching what was out there, what was offered, and kind of building on that, which actually became what is called now my classics collection. So my first scrub collection, our core products are French vanilla, our lemon, and our lavender sugar scrubs. And once I had that anchor, I kind of built from there. So it only
Mhm.
made sense to add soaps and candles in that scent. And then I do build out my offerings seasonally. So when I started playing around with apple and pumpkin scrubs, it only made sense to have the soaps and the candles. So it and I always try to incorporate the things I use and love. So,
Mhm.
things that people can use every day, things that are made with great ingredients, and that are going to be good for you. So I wish I could say that there was a formal strategy. I know my MBA professors are probably like shaking their heads at me right now, but it really just it evolved into something kind of logically and organically. I got to play around in the kitchen, and it allows me always to now exercise a different part of my brain using my hands. It's so different than what I do in the law, and
Yeah.
I'm really fortunate to have that outlet.
Yeah. Well, you may not have went into it with an intention or a strategy up front, but there was definitely a method to the madness in terms of one, just creating products and things that you actually love and use. I think a lot of people, when they're trying to build their businesses, they're trying to think of, what's going to respond well or what matches up with a trend versus, well, what's authentic and unique to what I like and the type of people that I want to work with.
Right.
And starting from just building that core foundational set of products and then building upon it in a way that makes sense, like, oh well, this is just a natural progression. I think there's
Exactly.
there's a really good lesson for people to follow in that.
Yeah, and not to switch gears, but I think that and this is something you and I spoke about when we were
Mhm.
working together, is finding my audience. I think
Yes.
when you get into business, you want everyone to know what you're doing. And that's good for,
Yeah.
when you're starting out. That's great. But there is a core group out there
Yeah.
who's really going to resonate with what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And I think, in working together, it's working, Ali. So,
I'm
my
very happy to hear that.
my my core audience is the health and wellness community. Now, anyone who works out, I like to think logically, are people who like to use good products. They care about their bodies, they care about what they're putting into it and on it. So my products really resonate with those folks. So I've been able to partner with fitness franchises
Yeah.
to offer my products in studio and connect with people who are going to come back to
Mhm.
me as a repeat customer. So that has been working really, really well with my business. And it was very hard initially to say no to opportunities that I knew wouldn't serve my business, because
Yeah.
you never want to say turn stuff down, but I think you have to do what's right for the business in the direction that you're going.
Yeah, if I could say anything, one of the biggest joys and satisfaction that I got out of us working together was giving you the ability or the permission to say no to the things and the opportunities that you didn't want. Because I saw like the some of the conversations that you were showing me with some of the, whether it was vendors or just customers that were coming in, and just realizing, oh, this isn't getting me to the goals and the things that I want. I really want to go after this opportunity, but I'm not sure how to like turn this down, or what's even the criteria to kind of filter between that. And once we worked together and you were able to have that, just seeing you like say no to things, and then you had so much more energy for like the things that you really wanted. That's like the part that I was really satisfied by.
And it also, you can't forget about yourself too. I'm someone who loves to work out. So
Yeah.
this is again just a natural progression for me to go into studios, and I understand what they have to offer, so I can relate to my clients on another level aside from what I have to offer. So it really just, you may not think about that when you're starting out, because you just want to get your sales and get yourself out there and get as much exposure as you want, but in kind of funneling that down strategically, I was able to make more targeted decisions about where and who and when I wanted to offer my products to.
Yeah.
So when you're scaling and you're adding products, Jamie, obviously when you're starting out, you're doing all the manufacturing. Are you still doing that today, or assume some of that stuff is?
That's a wonderful question, and Ali's going to be so proud of me. At this point in time, I am no longer manufacturing anything. I have now partnered with either other women makers or makers based right in the US, because that's very important to me as well, that are able to make products that, thank you, Be Sure, that make products that align with my values. So now, the next step is to not hold any inventory, which I will be able to wrap my head around at some point. But that was huge. I mean, I was making everything at the beginning. So, and I think that's what's so hard. Another thing Ali and I have spoken about, there's so many venues to sell your products. And I think when you have a new product, it's easy to get stuck in places that aren't for you. There's so many now vendor markets and flea markets, and I'm not a flea market brand. I'm a premium skincare brand. So you have to kind of take yourself out of those environments to target the folks you want to target. I know, if someone questions my price, they're not the right customer for me. So if I'm in the right environment, no one's ever going to question, what I have to offer and what I'm selling it for, because I'm in the right place. Yeah. And that takes time. And it took a lot for me to wrap my brain around that. And it's always an evolving process as I reevaluate how I'm pricing my products.
So was part of the hesitation to outsource some of the manufacturing, was it a quality control piece? Was it a not sure whether I want to make that additional investment? Like what were you you said you kind of, Ali's proud of you, so it means you were kind of talking about it for a little bit. So
I would say it's a little bit of everything. It was hard to let that go, that control piece, because I know every granule, down to the granule, what is in my product, and particularly my sugar scrubs, because that was my baby. That was my first product. but I knew it was something that needed to be done because I needed to free myself up to work on the business.
Yeah.
And it's just something I actually mentioned to my husband the other day. As I'm spending more time doing sales, being at my desk, working on the business, those are the things that need me.
Mm-hmm.
There are other things that can be done, the packaging, the back end type of things that can be outsourced. And as I grow, that is something that is growing with me instead of against me. And that's something that, instead in setting up SOPs was really, really helpful.
Yeah, we set up your SOPs, and we also created job descriptions for, even though you weren't even thinking about hiring yet, just thinking ahead for the future of, what do I want this position to look like? If I want somebody in this role, what are the things that I want them to be responsible for, and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? So I think really just creating that forward-thinking vision for yourself really gave you a lot of the leeway in the room that you were looking for.
Yeah, and it kind of helps me set up my day every day, because I need to figure out how to use my time in the most efficient way. And I think, it's always easier to do the low-hanging fruit type of task because you're accomplishing something. And we spoke about this at length, but it's not necessarily getting me to the long-term goals. So it's hard. It's always a challenge to kind of, not do those things and eat the frog, so to speak.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I forget who said that. I was gonna eat the frog.
Yeah. It's you do have to push yourself, but
was that Tim Ferriss, or was that who said
it is a book. I can't remember the author, but
hold on, we can look it up. Brian Tracy.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of
the
concept is doing the harder things first.
Yep.
And the easy things I can clean up at the end of my day. It's not a big deal, but really weeding through the mud sometimes it takes a little bit of discipline.
Yeah.
Doing those important things. It's doing the important things that are going to get you further along, right? I'm sorry,
Right.
I'm going to cut you off.
No, it's fine. I was going to come back to, so we talked about, the self-care aspect. I know one of the first conversations that I had with you was about things like, okay, when do you sleep? When are you taking a vacation with your husband? Like all of those different things. Because I think that's something that, again, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, especially when we start out on our own, it's so easy to forget to schedule that self-care time, that time for fun. And then, we get to the end of the quarter and we're just angry and miserable because we haven't taken any time for ourselves.
That's me in Q4.
Yeah.
Well, and now, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because now, the Q3 and Q4 are my busiest times, for retail. This is when I'm really starting to rev up. I've been thinking about Christmas since July 1st. So, and Hanukkah and all the holidays. Yeah. And so it's very difficult for me not to want to be working 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that I've done is I have put holds on my calendar for Sunday, so that is a day where I get to rest. I get to do whatever I want. That works sometimes. For the most part, it works. But in the busy season, it is hard to not schedule something, especially when we're really busy on the sales side.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've been doing, and I have been doing for a couple of years, is pre-scheduling time for myself, whether it be, and I do recommend this to my students all the time, is pre-scheduling a massage, a facial, I do that every month, and I know that's that 1 hour that I can relax and turn off. There's no screen time. It's me and, my thoughts, and hopefully just listening to some relaxing music. And that's it. That is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Jamie, you know what I love about that, and when you're booking times, and we talked about networking earlier, and we said like people should treat networking meetings just like they would a business meeting, right? If you book it in your time, that's of importance, and you stick by it. You don't let anything else intrude on that. Same thing with self care, right?
Yes.
Same thing with
Yes.
that time to work out, or that time, that massage, or whatever it may be. Like, it's really important that people have calendars, and they have priorities. They live by those calendars, right?
And I know when I'm checking off those things because they're in my calendar, I feel good once it's done. I mean, I did my workout today. I really didn't want to, but I feel good that it's done because now, I can go on to focus on other things. I feel good. My head is clear. I have been, and you'll see this on my social media. I'm trying to really up my steps, especially sitting at a desk all day. I'm really trying to like move a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you see me on my hot girl walks, that's what I'm trying to do. And that 20, 30 minutes, one, I'm hitting my step goal, which is fantastic. But two, I'm doing something that I set out to do, that I carved out time that is just for me. And that feels really good. It feels really, really good to pour into my cup, which is, something I'm not used to doing.
I love that too.
But I love it, and it's only been a couple days, but you'll follow me on this journey.
No, but I love that term too. You using those, some of my favorites: eat the frog, pour into my cup. I love that. Let me ask, kind of going a little bit of a different direction. We kind of covered
Sure.
it before. Being a solopreneur can be lonely, right? And I know you worked with, you and Ali worked together, and he's a trusted resource. But who are some of the other folks that, like, if you talk to other solopreneurs out there, what's your recommendation on trying to build a community?
I think that's a wonderful question, and I think we don't talk about it enough. Yeah, it gets lonely. I mean, I was doing some of the like not so great tasks, checking in inventory this morning, and kind of thinking about how I want to set up inventory for the busy season. And I'm like, wow, I really wish I had someone with me here to talk this through. I think it's staying connected to who I do business with. The retail partners that I have been really great because they're on the forefront of selling my products in their retail locations. And just hearing what they go through day to day, it really makes me feel seen and understood, and that I'm not alone out there. Having a networking group where you can, meet weekly or whatever it is to bounce ideas off of. I think sometimes, it's when you get so into your business, you don't focus on those things. And I think those are things that really, again, fill your cup to make you realize that the problems you're facing are not just you problems.
Yeah.
They're problems that other business owners encounter. And that's something that I need to work on too, is having more of those conversations. Because I'll tell you, when Ali and I met, I'm like, I can just fire my therapist because, I'm getting it all out here. But it was great because we're having conversations, and, he's sharing his experiences. And then you get to think about your problems or things you're facing in your business in a different way. And I think that's so helpful.
Yeah. I mean, it just knowing that you're not alone, and that, whatever problem or challenge that you're experiencing now, somebody else has faced it, somebody else has overcome it and gone through it. I think that does a lot to give us confidence, and just the reassurance that, yes, it's being an entrepreneur is definitely difficult and challenging, but it's not impossible, and we can do it. Right.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
So as we're coming up towards the end here, Jamie, share with us. Unless Ali, do you have another question?
No, I think I like where you're about to go. That's yeah.
So as we come up to the end, would you please share your main number one piece of advice to potential business owners who are saying, you know what, I want to quit my full time job and I want to follow a passion.
Don't be afraid to do something that's authentically you. What I do is part of my story, it's part of my life. I'm very fortunate to get to share about my brother in every single sale and interaction that I make. And if you have something that you believe in, take the leap of faith. There's so many ways financially that you can kind of crunch the numbers. Those things don't take care of themselves, unfortunately, but there will be people like Ali and Frank that help you along the way.
Yeah.
Take that leap of faith. Putting yourself out there, the worst someone can say is no. And I've been fortunate enough, those no's have eventually turned into yeses sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's been very powerful for me. So a little bit of tidbits of a little bit of everything there. I hope someone out there who's thinking about it, that really resonates with them.
That's awesome.
And where can we find you?
You can find me. So you can buy my products online at MatthewJamesHeartHome.com. We are in a couple of boutiques and hopefully growing. We're in What a Girl Wants in Belmore, New York, and Hip Chicks Boutique in Smithtown, New York. So you can check them out in person. And we are currently adding some retail partners as the holidays approach.
All right.
Yeah, let's get those holiday pre-orders in.
Yes,
Don't leave it to the last minute.
Absolutely.
Oh, and here's a silly question. I'm not being rude here, but for any guys that are listening, can you share what a sugar scrub is?
Oh, that's a wonderful question because we talked about that. So any guy who shaves their face, sugar scrubs are for you. So that's going to exfoliate your skin. It's going to prevent nicks, cuts, any redness or ingrown hairs. So if you shave your face, our sugar scrubs are for you. We do have a gender neutral soap line. So our citrus soaps, our mint soaps, which is also an exfoliator, Clean Cotton and Clover Fields. Those are our fresh scents. I'll tell you, Clean Cotton is my husband's favorite soap, and he thinks this is his personal stock. So the soaps are great, and a few of our spa items are really great to complement those sugar scrubs and soaps. So there is something out there for you, gentlemen, I promise.
Thank you for sharing.
Very good. Good question. Very good question.
All right. Well, with that,
Right,
thank
awesome.
you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you go to scalingsmartershow.com to find us on YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn as well. The show will be posted live within the next day or so, and then we'll link everything in the show notes so that you can find read more about Matthew James Heart and Home, the story behind it, the philanthropic work, and most importantly, a little bit more about Jamie's story. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.